Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Amir, and today we're going to talk about an author who has had a profound influence on literature, philosophy, and even psychology. That's right, we're diving into the brilliant and sometimes dark world of Fyodor Dostoevsky. If you're into deep thinking, unforgettable characters, and thought-provoking stories, then stick around because I'm giving you 5 powerful reasons why you should start reading Dostoevsky today. Dostoevsky's novels aren't just stories, they're explorations of the human soul, full of philosophical depth and timeless relevance. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're into book reviews, literary discussions, and all things related to classic literature. Also, drop a like if you're ready to explore one of the most iconic authors of all time. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with reason number 1. Dostoevsky's works offer unparalleled psychological depth. I mean, we're talking about a whole new level of diving into the minds of characters. It's like peeling back the layers of the human soul. Think about Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment. This guy is wrestling with guilt, morality, and reason after committing a murder. His internal conflict is so vividly portrayed that you can't help but feel his torment. Or take the Underground Man from Notes from Underground, talk about a character stuck in a battle between his own thoughts and the expectations of society. His cynicism and self-loathing are palpable. And the thing is, Dostoevsky doesn't just tell you what these characters are thinking, he throws you right into the middle of their internal struggles. You feel their pain, their confusion, their moments of clarity. You're not just reading about their experiences, you're practically living them. Every page pulls you deeper into their world. This isn't your average light reading, guys. It's intense, it's profound, and it's incredibly rewarding. This is the kind of stuff that makes you question human motivations, reflect on your own decisions, and maybe even confront parts of yourself you didn't know existed. It's a mirror to the human condition. Dostoevsky was fascinated by the darkest corners of the human condition: guilt, redemption, sin, and suffering. And he doesn't shy away from them. He dives headfirst into these themes. He brings these themes to life through his characters in a way that's both unsettling and deeply moving. You can't help but be affected by their journeys. You know, I remember the first time I read Crime and Punishment, I was blown away by how real Raskolnikov's guilt and paranoia felt. It was like stepping into his shoes. It was like I was right there in his head, experiencing every agonizing moment, the tension, the fear, the regret. It was all so palpable. And that's the power of Dostoevsky's writing. It's immersive, it's intense, and it's unforgettable. He doesn't just tell a story. He takes you on a journey through the complexities of the human psyche. It's a journey that stays with you long after you've turned the last page. Reason number 2, why you should be reading Dostoevsky: his incredible ability to tackle some of life's biggest philosophical questions. His works are not just stories, they are profound explorations of the human condition. We're talking about the kind of questions that have kept philosophers up at night for centuries. These are the questions that delve into the very essence of our existence. What is the meaning of life? Is there a God? These are not just casual musings, but deep, existential inquiries. What makes a person truly good or evil? These moral dilemmas are central to his narratives. These aren't just abstract concepts in Dostoevsky's novels. They're woven into the very fabric of the story. His characters live and breathe these questions. In The Brothers Karamazov, for example, you've got Ivan, who's basically waging a rebellion against God. His internal conflict is a microcosm of larger philosophical debates. He's wrestling with the existence of suffering in the world and how a loving God could allow it. This struggle is both personal and universal. And then you have Alyosha, his brother, who represents a more spiritual and compassionate way of looking at the world. His perspective offers a counterbalance to Ivan's skepticism. But here's the thing, Dostoevsky doesn't give you easy answers. He challenges you to think deeply and critically. He's not trying to preach a particular philosophy or tell you what to think. Instead, he opens up a space for dialogue and introspection. Instead, he presents these complex questions through the debates and struggles of his characters, leaving you to grapple with the answers yourself. It's a journey of intellectual discovery. It's like he's inviting you to join this intellectual battle, to weigh the different perspectives, and to come to your own conclusions. This engagement makes his work timeless, and that's what makes his work so engaging and thought-provoking. You're not just a passive reader, You're an active participant in the philosophical discourse. I remember reading notes from Underground and being struck by the underground man's rejection of reason and logic. His defiance is both unsettling and intriguing. He's this cynical, isolated character who challenges the idea that human beings are rational creatures. His perspective forces you to reconsider what you take for granted. It made me question my own assumptions about human nature and the role of reason in our lives. Dostoevsky's work compels you to look inward and question your own beliefs. All right, moving on to reason number 3. Dostoevsky's writing is shockingly relevant to today's world. We're talking about books written in 19th century Russia, yet they still resonate deeply with modern readers, even in our fast-paced, technology-driven society. Whether he's writing about societal inequality, mental health, or the tensions between wealth and poverty, the themes in his novels feel eerily familiar, almost as if he had a crystal ball to see into our present. It's like he had this uncanny ability to tap into the core of the human experience, something that transcends time and place, making his work timeless and universally relatable. Take The Idiot, for example. This novel explores the idea of a truly good person trying to navigate a world full of corruption and deceit, a theme that is still very much relevant today. Prince Mishkin, the main character, is often taken advantage of for his innocence and compassion, highlighting the challenges faced by those who strive to maintain their integrity in a flawed world. It makes you wonder, in a world driven by greed and ambition, can true goodness survive? Can a person remain untainted by the corruption around them? It's a question that feels just as relevant today as it did back then, especially in our current social and political climate. And then there are the social issues that Dostoevsky tackles: poverty, addiction, crime, mental health. These are not just historical problems, but ongoing struggles that many face today. These are problems that continue to plague societies around the world. And Dostoevsky doesn't shy away from depicting their harsh realities, forcing readers to confront these issues head-on. But it's not just the big-picture themes that make his work so relevant. It's also the small, intimate moments that capture the essence of human existence. It's also the way he captures the inner lives of his characters, their struggles with identity, purpose, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and absurd, mirroring our own existential dilemmas. I've always found it fascinating how Dostoevsky's characters, despite living in a different time and place, often feel so relatable, as if they could be people we know today. Their anxieties, their desires, their fears, they're all too human, all too familiar, making Dostoevsky's work a mirror reflecting our own lives and struggles. Let's talk about reason number 4, which is something that Dostoevsky is particularly famous for: his incredibly complex and unforgettable characters. These aren't your typical one-dimensional literary figures. Dostoevsky's characters are fully realized human beings with all their contradictions, flaws, and moments of both brilliance and despair. They're the kind of characters that stay with you long after you've finished the book. Take Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, for example. Here's a guy who believes he's justified in committing murder for the greater good. But after the act, he's consumed by guilt and paranoia. Dostoevsky doesn't make it easy for you to judge Raskolnikov. He forces you to confront the complexities of his motivations, to see the world through his eyes, even if you don't agree with his actions. And then there's Alyosha Karamazov, the young monk who represents compassion and faith in a world full of doubt and suffering. But even Alyosha isn't without his struggles. He's constantly tested, tempted, and forced to confront the darkness that exists within himself and the world around him. The beauty of Dostoevsky's characters is that they're never simply good or bad. They're a mixture of both, just like real people. They make mistakes, they act selfishly, they struggle with their own demons. And yet, there's also a humanity to them, a vulnerability that makes you root for them, even when they're at their worst. And finally, reason number 5 why you should be reading Dostoevsky: his ability to create stories that are emotional roller coasters. I'm talking about the kind of books that keep you on the edge of your seat, your heart pounding as you race through the pages. Dostoevsky was a master of suspense, drama, and moral tension. He knew how to build anticipation, how to create moments of intense conflict and emotional climax. Think about the courtroom scenes in The Brothers Karamazov, where the fate of Dmitry Karamazov hangs in the balance. Or the shocking confessions in Crime and Punishment, where Raskolnikov finally breaks down under the weight of his guilt. But it's not just about the external plot twists and turns. Dostoevsky also excels at capturing the inner turmoil of his characters, their emotional states as they grapple with love, loss, betrayal, and redemption. He writes with such raw intensity that you can't help but feel what his characters are feeling. You know, I remember reading Notes from Underground and feeling this incredible sense of claustrophobia as I delved deeper into the underground man's psyche. It was like being trapped in his mind, experiencing his alienation and despair firsthand. And that's the power of Dostoevsky's writing. He doesn't just tell you a story, he makes you feel it in your bones. So there you have it. 5 reasons why Dostoevsky is an author you need to read. From his deep psychological insights to his unforgettable characters and gripping stories, Dostoevsky has something for everyone. Whether you're a philosophy buff or just someone looking for a thought-provoking read. If you've read any of Dostoevsky's books, let me know in the comments which ones have impacted you the most. Or if you haven't read him yet, which novel are you excited to dive into first? Make sure to like this video if you found it helpful. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on literature and philosophy. Thanks for watching, and happy reading.